The events industry has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, hope was renewed when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the country would move to level 1 of the lockdown from Monday, the 21st of September. Restrictions on gatherings and public spaces remain in place, as the number of people allowed is limited to 50% of normal capacity, with a maximum limit of 250 people indoors and 500 outdoors. Many event stakeholders have called on the government to relook the capacity restrictions, as they still have a direct effect on profitability. Joining us to talk more about this is Homecoming Event Director Katlego Malachi, as well as the CEO of the Southern African Association of the Conferencing Industry, Clinton de Kock. A very good morning to you, Clinton and Katlego. I'll start with you, Katlego. The new regulations obviously mean something good for you guys. Will you be able to earn some revenue now that a lot more people are allowed outdoors?
Morning. Thank you for having me. Unfortunately, it's not that simple for the events industry, given the sort of scale at which we operate and the costs that go into hosting events, meaning that there's quite a great number of companies that wouldn't be able to meaningfully, trade under the new regulations. It's a step, yes, in the right direction, but it's unfortunately not quite where we need it to be. I think with restaurants and other sort of businesses through this period, we've learned that a capacity control mechanism might be a lot more effective than a numbers control mechanism, because you're looking at venues that can take up to 3,000 people indoors being restricted to 250, thus making it almost pointless for them to open up to trade. So we still believe there's a great deal of challenges ahead for the events industry.
Clinton, let's bring you in here. How does one make sure that event organizers actually comply with these new regulations, especially when alcohol is involved?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers, and thanks for having us on this morning. I think one has to appreciate the fact that we always knew from our side this would be a phased approach. If you go back to June, we were allowed to gather in groups of 50 or 50 delegates. We've obviously moved, but as Katlego said, the challenge is that with your venue sizes, you are capping us at 250. So what we have done, both as an association as well as with the formation of the SA Events Council, there are events safety protocols that we have put into play. And we've been engaging with government on these. They're currently at the Department of Health, and we're hoping to get endorsement on that. But I think our appreciation for the move in the last couple of days is the fact that we have increased numbers, not to where we wanted to be. But one understands that our country's just come out of a hard lockdown. So as much as we are and have and continue to save lives, it's about the livelihoods and getting our industry back on its feet again, because we've really taken a knock in the last 6 months. So it's small steps, but we have to be responsible, and that's why the event safety protocols are quite important as we reopen the broader part of our sector.
So, Katlego, then what is the plan going forward? How will you navigate now with these new regulations? Do you plan on going ahead and still hosting events?
Yeah, look, as Clinton said, and just to reemphasize that, a lot of the sentiment in the industry is as much as we are trying to revive our sector, we remain compliant. It is still a global pandemic. Some of us will open. My company has downscaled quite a number of events, and we will open and operate at a smaller scale as per the regulations. But a lot of colleagues in the industry will not be able to come back simply because you're no longer able, with the reduced numbers, to raise sufficient sponsorship. You're not able to hike up ticket prices to meet the deficit created by the restrictions in numbers. So there are very few colleagues that are opening up for trade again, and those who can't afford to really are flouting procedure and protocols in this regard. So it would be useful, I believe, for government to relook that and help people not to, veer away from protocols and operate a bit more optimally in a manner that makes sense, both for the objective of saving lives and of saving our industry.
Clinton, has the industry received any financial support from government over the past few months, considering that revenue was null and void? In fact, there was no revenue coming in.
Not significantly. I think the challenge with the sector is that it cuts across a number of other, let's say, governmental departments. So you'd find a bit of our sector would sit within the Ministry of Tourism, and another part will sit with the Department of Arts and Culture, and then also Sports and Recreation. So because of the diversity of the industry, we have not received, other than with the Department of Arts and Culture in the respect of freelancers, but within the broader ministries and from government side, it's really been very limited, if none or non-existent in terms of support, other than the UIF and the TERS. So what this has also allowed is, I think it's allowed government to fully understand the value, both at a socio-economic level, but I think the value of the event sector, or the business event sector and exhibition sector, that it has for Destination South Africa. So one would hope that our engagement over the last few months ensures that government understands not only the need for improved funding, but they need to work together with everybody within the sector going forward as well. So it's really been a challenge for us because of the fact, as I said at the start of my response, in that because we cut across all of the different sectors, to find a ministry to support us has been a bit of a challenge throughout the last 6 months.
Clinton, so what's the future looking like? And if something like this has to happen ever again, is there some sort of cushion from government that sort of helps people who are organizing events?
I think now we've got a base and a foundation to work off. I think the positive thing coming out of COVID, if there is any positive thing for our sector, was the formation of the SA Events Council. That has brought and continue to bring all of the associations or bodies or industry bodies under one umbrella that can speak to government. And I think we in that foundation, we're at the starting point of reorganizing institutional arrangements with government in terms of how we engage. And I believe that with all of the engagement and talking that we have done, the biggest sort of opportunity now is how do we as private sector work with government in ensuring that our recovery starts on the right footing. And importantly, that we're able to bring back businesses and individuals that have really, really suffered in the last 6 months. And I think it's our responsibility, not only as an association, but I think as a social partner, to keep government on its toes, to ensure that if this does happen again, or let's say we go back into, God forbid, into a second wave, we understand what the needs are of the sector quite clearly because of the discussions we've had the last few months.
Katlego, a situation like this has probably made you more innovative in many ways than you thought you could have, especially if you need to continue earning some sort of revenue. Virtual shows are now becoming a common thing. How have you had to adapt to this situation to continue earning revenue?
I mean, look, we've had to pivot many ways. We've had to explore the digital space. We've had to go into collaborative endeavors such as selling merchandise with artists. We've had to really just find interesting ways, and sometimes just stay put, shave some salaries off the top and stay put until something that makes sense comes by. Last year, selling PPE as an events company. But I think a lot of our colleagues have been very innovative, made use of that digital space quite well in this period, especially the artists. So it has been a period for great invention and reinvention.
And then in terms of revenue and hiring people, events companies obviously hire big numbers when it comes to staff, etc., from security to waiters and bar attendants, etc. How have they been affected? Have you had to let a few people go, and will you be able to get them back when things start opening up some more?
So yeah, I mean they've been hardest hit. They've been hardest hit quite significantly. I know we had to close our internship program simply because there was nothing for the interns to do. But when you look back at the people really at the bottom of the ecosystem who need the industry to open the most, security guards, waiters, waitresses, barmen, they've been significantly hit. Many have had to relocate, move back home, and our concern is that, as the economy opens, life will go on and you'll find new people to do that. But there's some people whose lives have been changed forever. And as such, it's worth noting how disappointing the Department of Arts and Culture's response and support provided to the industry has been in this period, because they've had minimal consideration for people of that nature, and those are people that have really been hardest affected by this.
Clinton and Katlego, thank you for your time. I guess we'll leave it right there, where engagement with government is still quite necessary. That was the Homecoming Event Director, Katlego Malachi, and the South African Association of the Conferencing Industry CEO, Clinton de Kock, just expanding further on the idea. Now that events are now taking place in level 1 lockdown, of course with limited restrictions, that comes into place on Monday.